I had no idea about semiconductors or advanced packaging.
He said specifically chiplet wasn't the way forward.
The cost per transistor is going to go down. We have to piece together different pieces of silicon using advanced packaging techniques so that it can start mimicking like a monolithic silicon. We've interestingly called 3.5D architectures, which is really taking a 3D architecture and fusing it with a 2.5D architecture and bringing best of both the worlds together. I'm a no bullshit person. Ideas are good, execution is even more better. It takes a village to build a chip or a career at level packaging. Ultra high density 3D hybrid bonding. I'll talk a little bit more about what that means in a bit. I think these are all going to be shaping the next wave of innovation. AI represents a fundamental inflection point right now, and it's the last couple of years has shown us that, and it's going to change how we do things, how we work on a daily basis, how you and I communicate with each other, how the kids learn at school. I just got my first job at Intel. No particular reason. Advanced packaging was not a thing 20 years back. Yes, it's cool, but it was not a thing. Different companies and different technologists come to the eventual realization that Moore's law is slowing down at different points in time. The collective experiences is really what has helped shape my career. Continuous improvement is better than delayed perfection. Put it all together, sometimes stuff doesn't work. Co-packaged optics has been the next best thing since sliced bread for the last 20 years.
Is if we look 5 to 10 years down the line, what do you see as the future of advanced packaging?
That's really the two sort of fundamental reasons why it's becoming the kingpin of innovation right now.
Join us in welcoming Dr. Raja Swaminathan, a leading force in semiconductor innovation. His work at AMD has redefined the possibilities of advanced packaging and heterogeneous integration.
Raja's journey through Intel and Apple has provided him with a unique perspective on the evolution of chip technology. From overcoming Moore's law's challenges to pioneering 3D architectures, his influence is undeniable.
Get ready to explore the cutting edge of semiconductor packaging. Let's dive in.
Hello and welcome back to the Semiconductor Leadership Podcast. I'm your host, Salah Nasri. And whether you're an industry veteran or someone that's just curious about semiconductor manufacturing, this is your podcast. So, first of all, before I jump into this absolutely sensational podcast that is waiting for you to witness, I want to ask you one quick little favor. Hit that subscribe button. You see that button right here? Hit it. We just hit 2,500 subscribers, 100,000 views. We want to get these numbers higher and higher because the higher the numbers get, the more entertaining this podcast will become. And you'll get straightforward, top-notch, well, I wouldn't say entertainment, but knowledge from the best of the best in the industry, just like our special guest today. Now, joining us today is Dr. Raja Swaminathan. He's the Corporate Vice President of Advanced Packaging at AMD, with an illustrious career taking him from the days at Intel, Apple, and AMD. Raja, of course, has been instrumental in the developments in today's advanced packaging and heterogeneous integrations roadmaps. From pioneering EMIB at Intel to shaping Apple MX packages, to today's 3D 5K and 3.5D AI architectures at AMD. So his work, of course, exemplifies the latest and the greatest. He holds a PhD from Carnegie Mellon University, a bachelor's of in electrical engineering at IIT Madras, and is, of course, recognized as an IEEE fellow with over 100 patents and 40 published papers to his name. So without further ado, Raja, welcome to the show.
Thanks for inviting me.
The pleasure.
Pleasure to be on the show.
Thank you.
And just a minor correction, my bachelor's was in metallurgical engineering.
Metallurgical engineering.
Iron and steel, believe it or not.
Really? Yeah. Iron or steel?
Iron and steel.
Okay, wow.
So,
Look at that.
iron making and steel making, those 25 years ago.
Jeez. So that's a beautiful way to start the discussion. How did you go from iron and steel to chips at the end of the day?
Of course, I didn't plan for it.
Accident?
I wouldn't say accident, but it's more a sort of a collective learning experiences that sort of brought me here.
Okay.
Sort of a transition from metallurgy back in my bachelor's, and I went into material science and solid state physics at Carnegie Mellon. Did some research there, and then I just got my first job at Intel with no particular reason. I just moved there.
Was it just like a careers day that you just walked by and just saw the Intel sign, or?
So pretty much, right? As a career fair, they hired me.
Oh, wow.
Paid better than a postdoc would ever pay me. So I just moved
Oh, look at that.
and then started learning about semiconductors, silicon, and then transitioned to packaging.
Was this in Phoenix at the
I
time?
started my career in Oregon, believe it or not. So Oregon was,
Right there.
after a year or so, it was just too dark and rainy for me. So moved to sunny Arizona.
Nice. Intriguing. So, from your perspective, I mean, what would you say was the defining moment that set you on this path? During your time at IIT Madras or at CMU, great universities, by the way.
Yeah, although I received my education from some of the prestigious schools, I had no idea about semiconductors or advanced packaging, right?
Okay.
I think it's really getting the fundamentals right through through your bachelor's and PhD, and through the PhD, I also built a lot of grit and perseverance to solve difficult problems. I think that sort of this adaptability is what has, I think, helped me through my career, because advanced packaging was not a thing 20 years back. Yes, it's cool and sexy now, but it was not a thing. Packaging, even when I started the industry in 2005, was all about, hey, make sure my silicon doesn't break, and just make sure you protect the silicon. That's what packaging was about,
Right.
even in 2005. But it's come a long way that now I can't build silicon without packaging, advanced
Sure.
packaging.
What do you think, Raja, has made advanced packaging so attractive these days? Why is it like the hot topic? Like everyone wants a piece now all of a sudden.
Advanced packaging was always important, I would say, in the last 5 to 10 years, when as an industry, we were collectively seeing Moore's law slowing down. Some people call it slowing down. Some people say it's dead. Some people say it's in a coma. But whichever shades of gray you want to look at it, it was right now. I think it's really coming to the forefront because it's really enabling future node silicon. Moore's law scaling cannot go on just by scaling silicon and transistors, and that's the reason advanced packaging is becoming front and center. And more than just enabling silicon scaling, it's also enabling multitude of new devices that you can't envision with just pure monolithic silicon anymore. And some of that I'm going to be discussing in a little bit more detail in my talk later this week. But that's really the two sort of fundamental reasons why it's becoming the kingpin of innovation right now.
Right. So what I would love to understand from that perspective, Raja, is from our side, from my experience, just like you mentioned, we will always focus on the logic CMOS subjects when we started the association 15 years ago. And then 5 years in, we were told by your previous old bosses, they were like, stop it, just focus on advanced packaging and heterogeneous integration. It is the future. And we used to have people saying, no, we're not interested in coming to your conferences or summits or events because you're too advanced packaging focused. And then fast forward pandemic time, we've been selling out since our events that are focused on advanced packaging. I think even the funniest part is actually, quote unquote, your competitor, Jensen, in 2022, he said specifically chiplet wasn't the way forward. And then you see recently with the Shield, he's got a chiplet wave on there. What's your perspective? What do you think was the game changer?
In regards to adopting advanced
adopting advanced packaging.
I think different companies and different technologists come to the eventual realization that Moore's law is slowing down at different points in time, right? And what is Moore's law in your opinion? What is Moore's law's original premise?
Well, it's 2x, isn't it? It constantly doubles.
The original premise of Moore's law was the cost per transistor is going to go down.
Right.
But
The original, yes, sure.
it is actually a paper in financial literacy more than a scientific paper, right? The original Moore's law paper. I think what is happening now is the cost per transistor is not going down. In fact, it is going up. That's really, people are trying to realize it at different points in time in the last, let's say, five-ish years or so. And I think everybody's come to the eventual realization that we can't scale with monolithic silicon anymore. We have to piece together different pieces of silicon using advanced packaging techniques so that it can start mimicking like a monolithic silicon.
So, I mean, look, you're going into focusing on the techno side. I want to focus more on your career for the beginning part. It spans through three iconic companies: Intel, Apple, and now AMD. How would you describe your evolution through these roles?
I think the transition from Intel to Apple was, in a sense, transition from an IDM to my first fabless experience. And within a fabless ecosystem, you essentially understand the entire world of ecosystem partners that you're traditionally not used to in an IDM space. The foundries, the OSATs, the substrate manufacturers. And in my case, it is also a deep knowledge of system design and system engineering working with the Apple system engineering teams that gave me a significant exposure into things that I've not really, I was just seeing it from the outside, but now I was going in headfirst into learning about all of this, learning about different technologies, different companies, different cultures, which I think helped quite a lot during my limited career at Apple. And that propelled me to move towards AMD, which also had become a true blue fabless company at that point, like early 2020. So I think all of that helped me transition to AMD. I came in as a senior fellow. I was supposed to manage the research projects with 2 or 3 people reporting to me. But then that transitioned, the responsibilities expanded. Now manage a large cross-functional team managing all packaging and heterogeneous integration. I think the sort of the building on the collective experiences is really what has helped shape my career at a high level.
And what's really interesting is that you've also contributed to pivotal breakthroughs, of course, like the EMIB, like Apple's MX chip packages, and now AMD's 3D V cage. Which of these achievements challenged you the most, and which ones are you most proud of?
I mean, the selecting a technology milestone that I'm most proud about is akin to choosing my favorite child, right? Not easy. And each innovation, I think, builds upon the experiences that I've had previously and lessons derived from previous developments. Mark Twain actually mentioned like continuous improvement is better than delayed perfection. Right?
Sure.
So I think each milestone, EMIB, Apple's MX packages, the Vcache, and the 3.5D have uniquely contributed in enhancing our industry's capabilities at different points of time. And collectively, the 3.5D architecture is a sort of a culmination of everything that not just me, but as an industry we have driven towards.
I see. So now at AMD, you've got quite a lot on your shoulders, Raja. You're leading the packaging strategy and execution. Could you share what your current role entails as corporate vice president of the advanced packaging division? And also, I'd love to know is what's your top priorities for AMD's packaging and integration roadmap?
Sure, absolutely. So I lead all of the packaging and heterogeneous integration teams within AMD across all business units and products. And the some of the key jobs of my team is really developing new advanced packaging technologies, whether it's in the 2.5D space, substrates with power delivery and signal integrity, 3D, of course, with hybrid bonding and other new technologies. And then combining all of it, what we interestingly call 3.5D architectures, which is really taking a 3D architecture and fusing it with a 2.5D architecture and bringing best of both the worlds together. And most of these innovations are not driven because of a technology's sake, but it's really there is a product performance, power, area, and cost, PPAC. That is what is driving these innovations together, right? And it's especially in the last couple of years, these are addressing some key AI bottlenecks in memory bandwidth, network bandwidth and latencies, power performance, performance per watt. Those are where the key innovations are really focused on. And I think some of the big ticket areas as an industry we are working with our ecosystem partners are on, of course, scaling the 3D architectures, figuring out how to build larger and larger modules in 2.5D constructions, eventually transitioning to panel-based packaging. And optics has become a big thing over the last couple of weeks after GTC. So everybody in the industry is actively working on co-packaged optics, including AMD. So we'll tell you more when the time is right.
Yep.
But I think it's really a sort of a collection of multitude of functions. Thermals are going to become a huge factor moving forward. We're already seeing data center racks at 600 kilowatts or 1 megawatt. How are you going to cool all of that? So innovations in thermal technologies are also going to be crucial. So as my team works on pretty much all of the above in a collective manner, and the integration of all of that is also going to be challenging. Each technology as a standalone works well, but you put it all together, sometimes stuff doesn't work. So
sure.
Just trying to figure it out.
Interesting what you mentioned, as one of the strategy plans that we had in mind for this week's International Semiconductor Executive Summit. When we were tailoring the agenda, it was actually way before the GTC announcement came out. So what we decided to tailor the agenda by combining, of course, our forte, which is advanced packaging, but also bringing silicon photonics into the game. I presume that you and your team are working on this right now, and is this something that you feel is the game changer for sure? Because, of course, what I've heard is that copper is running out of steam, as one would say.
It's interesting that you bring this up. 2-3 years ago, I was on a panel. I think one of the questions was, hey, when is co-packaged optics going to show up, right? I think my response 3 years ago was, co-packaged optics has been the next best thing since sliced bread for the last 20 years. I think its time has come.
Okay.
And it's mostly because there is a point in time at which copper doesn't scale as efficiently in terms of performance per watt. And the entire industry, including us, we are working on co-packaged optics. And the real question is, what are the right products that we need to implement it? Where do we see the best performance per watt and performance per dollar value proposition? And if you look at it from a data center hardware and infrastructure standpoint, there are many pieces of the infrastructure where you could be power constrained, and different companies may choose different ways of implementing it. So we will share more details as and when it's ready to be public, but it's coming. I think that's much as clear.
That's good. So from your perspective, Raja, how does AMD approach the balance between two key things you just mentioned? One, of course, is scalability, and the other is, without a doubt, innovation when it comes to heterogeneous integration.
The way we define technologies and products that are taking use of these technologies is really focused on design for manufacturability in mind. We do not introduce technologies to our product architects that we don't think are manufacturable. Yes, there is a push and pull. Like, the architects would want pretty much everything under the sun to be able to build their products so that they can get faster time to market and better performance. But obviously, one of the jobs of me and my team, I have an architecture team that works with silicon architects to be able to draft what is the right silicon package architectures
Mm.
that are scalable, right? And I was doing this job 5-6 years ago, back when I was at Apple and starting part of my career at AMD. I think the key is really putting together a technology building block package that can actually scale in high volume is really going to be the focus. Like it has to be reliable. It has to be, you have to qualify this in millions of units, and a customer should also not have any implications because of the fact we introduced new technology. So it's a mix of all of that.
And if that was, I mean, when it is the case, I mean, how do you decide when to double down on a new packaging approach?
I think there are some technologies where you have to sort of almost make it happen. And one of the classic examples was MI300, where we had to pack in as much compute as possible in a given footprint of let's say a 70 by 70 substrate. And the only way to do and pack as much compute is to make it in a 3D construction, because in the same footprint you're essentially doubling the amount of transistors. So there comes different inflection points where different technologies start becoming significant, and you start doubling down on us. 3D V-cache, which then transitioned to the 3D implementation on MI300. Let's say those are all inflection points where we doubled on, and I think the time has come for the industry to double down on co-packaged optics now.
I mean, of course, you've specifically spoken quite, often recently, of course, about, PPAC, right? Power, performance, area, and cost. How does, of course, from your perspective, advanced packaging directly influence these specific metrics from your...
Absolutely. DTCO has been a sort of a cornerstone of how we have defined AMD's product strategy, enabling us to push the boundaries in terms of what is possible in PPAC, right? And it is particularly critical in the case of MI300, the high performance AI accelerator, where we were able to harmonize different design and architectural choices with manufacturing capabilities, and which is where we were able to successfully launch MI300 was the best PPAC in the industry. And I think the shift to 3D packaging, which we had envisioned even before MI300, allowed us the best bang for the buck in terms of performance per watt, in terms of packing as much compute but utilizing as little power as possible. The fact that we had to do 2.5D to add memory logic interfaces was what enabled us to go down to this extremely large 2.5D module. And pulling it all together, we had a 3.5D architecture that puts it all together and effectively make it designed for manufacturable.
Nice. So I would love to know, of course, from your perspective and, just maybe generically on the industry in terms of if we focus on what is the biggest challenge, and I would say like the priority, the number one biggest challenge in the industry today for advanced packaging. Is it 1, the thermal management? Is it 2, interconnect density? Is it 3, material limitations? Or would you say it's 4, supply chain bottlenecks?
It's 5, all of the above.
All of if you had to choose one, which one's like the biggest nightmare?
The
biggest challenge that if I could give you a wand right now and you could be like, fix that now.
I can. So it depends on when you ask me that question. Like in 2021, 2020, the biggest bottleneck was supply chain. Right? How do we get substrates on time? How do we get silicon on time? I think it's at that point, it was really bottling down on the supply chain, investing in supply chains. That was the single biggest bottleneck. Like in 2022, it was really about, hey, can I get this 3D stacking to work in a large construction of MI300? And now, if you ask me from a technology, maybe I'll frame it as, hey, what is my significant technology bottleneck, and maybe what is a non-technology bottleneck, right? So if you look at the technology bottleneck, I think there are two big things. Really, the size of these AI accelerator modules are growing significantly, and there comes a point of time when you can't fit so much on a wafer anymore. How do we transition to panels, and how do we get the same capabilities that I used to get on wafer on a panel? That's going to be a huge technology inflection point. We talked about co-packaged optics. That is already a technology inflection point. We are living through it right now.
Right.
And you're going to see a lot more innovation coming out in that space in the next couple of years. From a supply chain standpoint, of course, there is a lot of geopolitical uncertainty right now. So how do we manage all of that to make sure not just our supply chain robustness, but in terms of how much performance per dollar we sell our parts for? I think all of that are going to be bottlenecks. I realized I effectively answered all of the above questions.
You did it. Yeah. I mean, I think, it goes back because I was going to ask you in terms of the growing emphasis on 3D stacking and chiplets. Of course, all of that comes with complexity. So, I always ponder from your perspective or from AMD's perspective and your team's perspective, handling these integration hurdles. How are you guys dealing with it? Let's say from signal integrity to thermals.
Yeah, this is specifically in context of 3D, right?
Correct.
So maybe I'll just rewind the clock. When we started doing 3D Vcache in the first place, that was really a test chip. It was not supposed to be a product. It was really a test chip that we wanted to understand how hybrid bonding works. What are the physics of the devices when you actually go through these extreme thinning and bonding processes. And then we figured out quite a lot in terms of what hybrid bonding actually does to the transistor performance. We did not even expect that to happen, but that's what the data started showing us when we actually built real product out of it. So we understood the physics of the problem, and then we slowly started understanding what is the implication to thermals and what are the design for thermal structures that you can put in place to make the structure more practical. And then when we transitioned that from like a simple 3D integrated product to a 3.5D product in conjunction with a large 2.5D interposers, the integration challenges that came about were even more different. So at different stages during a 3D journey, we have solved different kinds of problems. There are points of time where we had to solve capacity challenges, bring in new factories, and scaling the hybrid bonding technology in millions of units volume. We are still the only logic hybrid bonded manufacturer product and still in the world. It's been 4 years since we launched our first product.
Wow!
So it's a difficult technology to scale and bring to market. So, and thermals is of course a big challenge with 3D architectures, right? So innovating on new materials, innovating on new processes, all of that sort of comes to bear when we bring out these integrated products.
Marvelous. So of course, I'd love to go a little bit more so focusing on the leadership perspective and the impact that you're, of course, involved in. You've led, of course, some of the most influential packaging initiatives in the industry. What's your leadership philosophy, Raja? When it comes to building high impact teams that bridge design and technology together.
I think the leadership, my leadership philosophy is based on like sort of two basic principles, right? First is no one can do it alone. It takes a village to build a chip or a career. I think I had a recent LinkedIn
post. It takes a village to build a chip.
Yeah, and a career.
Loved it.
It's really the ecosystem has to come together, right? And from a leadership standpoint, I have the sort of a similar philosophy. It's not just me telling the team what to do, or it's really a collective process. We learn from each other, we push each other, we pull each other, and we do the same thing with our ecosystem partners as well. And doing it all in a sort of an honest and transparent manner that builds trust, not just with your teams but also your ecosystem partners. And learning by failing, but failing early. I think that's one of my mantras, so to speak, in terms of what I drive my team to do. Fail, but fail early. Don't fail when I'm going to launch the product in a couple of weeks. So I think it's really a question of building the trust in people, and then and if depending on the situation, putting yourself in front of the problem and saying, hey, yes, there is a problem. How do we collectively solve it? And you need to be, I feel, a leadership in a large company dealing with complex problems, the leader has to be technically deep. Otherwise, it's going to be extremely difficult to navigate different technical challenges. That's my strong core philosophy.
Are there any specific values that you stick to that is like that you have no mercy on in terms of your leadership strategies with your team?
I'm a no bullshit person, so I think that's really
a benefit. It saves time.
It's a benefit. Sometimes it can rub people the wrong way, but I feel like I was actually watching a movie on the flight, and it says it's easy to tell the truth. It's more difficult to tell the lie because you have to make sure you continue saying it every time, right? So I follow that philosophy. Like, it's just easy for me to be honest with the team. But the way I have evolved over the last, I would say, 10 plus years or so is the way I tell the truth. Sometime earlier on in my career, I was like in your face, kind of, hey, this is wrong, this is right. But then I realized there's different shades of gray in terms of how we can actually convey the message. So I think that has helped a lot in my career, and I coach my team to do that as well. Not in interactions with me. I ask them to be brutally honest with me when I make a mistake, or when a supplier makes a mistake. Those are things that needs to be called out very clearly. But end of the day, we are dealing with people and humans. End of the day, right? So it's all about how do you build the human connections. Just like you're raising a kid, it's just the interactions you have with your family, and you can't be brutal every time. So it's really managing those relationships is what is going to be crucial for any leadership position.
Sure. So from that point of view, then I'd love to know as well how, I mean, we're speaking about building high impact teams. So in terms of fostering a culture of innovation while maintaining execution discipline, how do you foster that type of environment?
I think it's a very difficult question, right? I still go back to some of the principles that have stayed with me for the last 25 years or so. I think Albert Einstein famously quoted, imagination is more important than knowledge. Knowledge is limited, and imagination embraces the entire world and stimulates progress and gives birth to evolution. So I think that is still going to be what is going to drive the ecosystem. Imagination, innovation, coming up with ideas people think are crazy today are not necessarily crazy a couple of years from now. So I think that fundamentally, that needs to be that drive, right? But then once you take that idea, or the key is how to execute it and get zero DPPM solutions. An idea is good, but it's actually better if it's actually executed. And so it's one of these transitions I have gone through in my career over the last 10 years or so, especially during the later half of my career at Intel and then transitioning to Apple. Understanding that execution is actually extremely crucial. Ideas are good, execution is even more better. And how do we philosophically go through that transition as a function of the product cycle? That's also very crucial. Like, you have to let people innovate early on to come up with fancy architectures. But then when it's time to ship product, it's going to be about bottling down and delivering on execution. So I think balancing that as a leader of the team that does both is going to be crucial. I just have to be nuanced to the different teams working on different aspects of the solution.
Sure. Well, there's another quote for you: is execution outperforms perfection.
Exactly.
I think that's the secret of the game. Raja, I mean, you also serve as a technical advisor to startups alongside managing a team at AMD, which is not a small company. What excites you about startup innovation? I presume are they only in packaging, or are they in different fields?
They're in different fields.
Okay.
But I think thanks for recognizing the IEEE fellow. I think that was really a testament to the entire AMD company in terms of coming together with these chiplet architectures and delivering the most robust advanced packaging product in MI300. So it was really a team effort. Being part of this technical committees, being an IEEE fellow, serving on these startups, have really enriched my perspective on innovation outside my day job at AMD. And it helps me triangulate different pieces of information, both from a technical standpoint and the supply chain dynamics, to figure out what is the best possible solution, not just for AMD, but also for the industry in general. How do we actually shape the industry that can guide sort of transformative breakthroughs, both in the US and across the world, in terms of getting the right next step building blocks up and running.
Marvelous. So I want to go and move to the next part of the chapter, as one would say, is future outlook, Raja. Is if we look 5 to 10 years down the line, what do you see as the future of advanced packaging? And I think a question to follow up with that, it will be, will we move beyond 3D to something even more radical?
So I'll answer the first part of the question.
Please.
I think there are several opportunities and breakthroughs in advanced packaging and heterogeneous integration that are going to be extremely crucial, right? And we talked about a few of them already, like co-packaged optics, transitioning to panel-based
panel-level packaging,
ultra high density 3D hybrid bonding. I'll talk a little bit more about what that means in a bit. I think these are all going to be shaping the next wave of innovation. The last few years and the upcoming few years are all going to be driven by AI and HPC workloads. But if you look at silicon or packaging scaling in general, there have always been waves that have driven innovation, but the change has been the constant. But there are still some fundamental premises that Moore's law is slowing down, and we have to come up with newer and newer advanced packaging architectures, including things that are not being invented yet. Those are things that are going to come to bear and really scale the industry forward. More than the technologies themselves, there is also going to be potential new ecosystem partners that are going to emerge. And who knows where the next TSMC is going to come from, right? I talked a little bit about ultra precision, high density 3D packaging, which is probably going to be beyond 3D. Today, if you look at hybrid bonding, is really done it's done in a fab environment, but the bonding techniques are very similar to like a thermocompression bonding or a standard solder-based processes. Yes, it's a copper-to-copper bonding, but the tools that are being used are sort of legacy tools that are trying to come into the bonding space. There could be a future where there are fab-like precision tools, like a lithography tool that can scale into advanced packaging or something else, right? So those are things that we are working actively with the ecosystem partners to develop and scale further. So, and of course, there are going to be significant different innovations around co-packaged optics. So that's also going to be an exciting field in the next 5 to 10 years, or rather 3 to 5 years.
Marvelous. And from your perspective, then, how do you envision AMD's role as a leader in this transformation, especially, of course, as you mentioned, the rise of AI workloads and high-performance computing?
I think AI represents a fundamental inflection point right now, and it's the last couple of years has shown us that, and it's going to change how we do things, how we work on a daily basis, how you and I communicate with each other, how the kids learn at school. I think it's going to fundamentally change. And it's really going to be driven by advanced packaging and high-performance computing in terms of the building blocks themselves. And by optimizing data processing and enhancing computational efficiency, AI can even revolutionize how we approach semiconductor design in the first place. There's a lot of articles around how that can be done as well. And on Wednesday, I'm going to delve a little bit more into sort of this interplay between what the AI demand is and how some of these new technologies are going to sort of bridge that gap. And things, it's going to be beyond just AI also. Like some of these techniques can actually cascade. It'll probably start in the AI space or the AI accelerator space, which is where the big bucks are and the big performance requirements are. But then eventually it'll cascade down into other territories as well: immersive computing, personal computing, and gaming, for example.
Right.
All of that will take advantage of the scaling that is happening in AI.
Yeah. Raja, I think we reached the at the end of this marvelous discussion. I'd like to actually just check with you from your life experience. Who's your biggest inspiration in your life, Raja?
It's a good question. My biggest inspiration, it's not just one person, but I've been inspired by a lot of people who persevere and that have the grit to accomplish things to completion. That's really people like my parents and some of my the friends that I grew up with, and that's been the sort of the common theme of people that I admire. The people who put in the hard work when people don't notice. I think that's, to me, is the success doesn't come overnight, right? And what you see as an output is hours and hours and years of hard work and toil. So I think that's sort of the it's too many to name, but it's really people who have persevered through difficult times, and come out of it successful. I think those are the kind of people that are really. I think, again, not to sound corny, but I would like to do a Walt Disney quote on this. It's like all our dreams can come true if you have the courage to pursue them, right? It's really when you put in the blood, sweat, and tears is really when you will feel that you've done a great job.
Yes,
succeeding in what you're succeeding in. So that's really been my many people who have been an inspiration. Some of my close friends, my parents, and a lot of sports stars as well.
Sure. Is there? I mean, connecting that to another key element or question to ask you is what's your motivation? I mean, why do you do this? Like, why is it so important to you?
It's fun, first and foremost. Right?
Yeah.
It's waking up every day to a new challenge, new problem. I think that
bring it on.
that just excites me. And some of those problems may be solved overnight, but sometimes it takes 6 months, a year of daily design of experiments, daily peeling the onion at different levels, getting frustrated a couple of weeks at a stretch that you're not able to find the solution, and then eventually it'll all come together. But then you'll be heterogeneous at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But then the process through which that whole thing happens, there is going to be a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. I think I think personally, I'm actually not excited about the end state as much as the process to get to the end state. Right, the end state happens, and then what next? Just move on, right? It's really the process that helps define you as a person, define a team, and defines a company.
So in terms of the process, it's interesting you mentioned about process, and with process, as you mentioned, unfortunately, a lot of pain is involved within this process, depending on if you stick to it, right? What would you say was the most hardest part, or what is the most challenging part of your career? What was the toughest part?
The toughest part of my career, I don't want to name the companies, but I think the toughest part of my career, this was probably earlier on in my career when I had to present some data to some executives, and I knew the data was right. I had it validated, only for them to say, "Hey, don't worry about it. There are some variables in that data set that are not in your control. We'll make sure that gets fixed," and it never got fixed after 10, 15 years. So I think that's so experiences like that actually shape me in terms of being true to what the data tells you. I think that's actually extremely critical for...
The data doesn't lie, does it?
Data doesn't lie. You can sugarcoat it as much as you want, but the data doesn't lie. So people who actually head on accept that data will move forward.
What's your proudest moment of your career?
The proudest moment of my career, it goes back to the 3D Vcache development. The proudest moment was not on the day we launched it, but the proudest moment was when we actually, after 6 months, we were able to explain the transistor physics of what happens during hybrid bonding. That we've never talked about it in public. We have never published anything about it, but collectively as a team, we knew all the experiments that we put in place on a hypothesis. And there was no papers on this topic. There's no previous work that was done on this topic, but we were able to go in through like DOE after DOE, sort of solving some of the hypothesis, proving or disproving the hypothesis, and then eventually coming up with, hey, it all came together in a couple of days. The data came out to sort of support some of the hypothesis, and that was, I think, a proud moment for not just for me but for our entire team. And I think that established the framework of how hybrid bonding for logic devices needs to be done. Because the reason I say it's proud is there were areas where I didn't have too much knowledge about in terms of transistor physics. We, myself and my team, we had to learn a lot about transistor physics, transistor reliability, transistor device performance, and then merge it all together with what hybrid bonding does. That I think was a transformational moment.
Wow. And finally, I mean, what are you most excited about right now on a professional and personal basis?
Professional basis, I think the team that we're building at AMD is coming together. I feel we have the industry's best advanced packaging team. I think I'm proud of that we were able to sculpt the team over the last 5 years to get it to this point, and we are continuing to take leaps and bounds on that. Personally, my son is he just started Boy Scouts last year, and he's going to become a first class pretty soon. So I'm excited for him.
Nice.
He's making that transition. He's already thinking Eagle Scout, but I think it's a way out there. But let's take the smaller milestones and savor these moments.
He's got to learn the process, right?
He's learning through the exactly right. Going to the same thing. So starting into about learning the process, going through the requirements, like developing that grit to persevere through all your merit badges and challenges. I think those are all
good, man.
Important moments. And I'm going to do a LinkedIn post soon about scouts and semiconductors.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. We'll be watching out for that. Raja, thank you again. Raja, we have a tradition on the show where the last person leaves a question for the next person.
Oh, the last one. Do I know who the next person is?
The last person, anonymous. He actually was on you're going to see him on the show in a couple of weeks before you. I don't think you know him as well. But he left you a very intriguing question. He doesn't know who you are.
Okay.
What does the path of success look like for Intel?
Oh, my God.
You should. Sorry, I should have laughed out loud. Sorry.
I can't comment on it. I still have very good friends back at Intel. They have a management hoping for the success, and I think
we wish him sincere success. Yeah, I mean, it's sad to see the situation that it's in, but at the end of the day, it's a national sovereign brand. I've made great friends like yourselves and many other very dear friends from that company. A lot of legends have come out of that company. So, just wish it the best to come back alive.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. Raja, it's been a glorious discussion. Thank you so much for the work that you do for the industry as a whole. I think at the end of the day, it's people like yourself that are driving the future of technology. So we appreciate the work that you do for AMD, for yourself, and for the world as well. So sincere gratitude on our side, and thank you for the support that you give us at the International.
I really appreciate you inviting me on your show. Yeah. It's a pleasure, and it's been great knowing you for so many years.
Yeah, time is flying by, isn't it? So yeah, thank you, Raja. It's a pleasure. My friends out there, hope you enjoyed the show. If you want to contact Raja, follow Raja, you can follow him on LinkedIn. The link is right below here. You can click him, follow him on LinkedIn, and stay up to date with his incredible work and his team at AMD. Other than that, I wish you all the best and looking forward to seeing you at the next episode. And remember, It takes a village to raise a chip. Bye for now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Raja. That was wonderful.